Alrighty, my name is Trevis Waters and I am the CEO and founder of PlayerProps.AI. This is Player Props 101, which, as you saw with the previous Sports Betting 101, this is not the kind of same panel, not a lot of people on stage answering a bunch of questions. I'm just going to go through the bare bones basics to some intermediate to some more advanced things when it comes to playing in player props. Now there's some time etched in at the end for questions if you have some, but if not, that's right up quite all right. So let's just go to the bare bones basics. We all know that everybody starts at different levels. Some people are intermediate players, somebody already has experience with player props, somebody has no idea what player props even means. So let's make sure we cover that. What exactly is player props? Well, traditional betting, you're betting on a team to win. You know, are the Dolphins going to beat the Patriots? Are the Chicago Bulls going to have a certain amount of total points? When it comes to player props, you're betting on specific player outcomes. For example, is Tyreek Hill going to get over or under 120.5 receiving yards? Now that we covered the basics, let's go into some regional access. You cannot play player props in every single state in the US, but you can play them in a lot of them. And then there's some extra rules on top of that as well. So right here, I have a screenshot I'm going to pull up, taken directly from PrizePicks. PrizePicks is by far one of the most popular player prop apps that are not operational in sports book states. Well, some of them, but not all of them. There's a little gray area called fantasy props that allows these sites to operate in. You see a bunch of different colors on the screen here. The purple ones are the traditional pick'em style games. Now, if you've never heard of PrizePicks, you never played PrizePicks, you're essentially choosing two or more player props in your slip. So for example, one of my picks is over Tyreek Hill 120.5 receiving yards. The other one might be Derrick Henry under 50.5 rushing yards. I can do that on PrizePicks in these purple states. Now you see another color is yellow. These are states that don't have the ability to have that same style that I just mentioned. Either they used to have them and the regulations changed, or they never had them in the first place. So PrizePicks decided to find another gray area in the law that allows them to offer their same style of contest as long as it's peer-to-peer. So they created this new game mode called Arena that allows you to do player props as long as you are competing against someone else, and that is in the yellow states. The last color here are the light blue colors. We have Colorado, Michigan, and New York. These are states that PrizePicks used to operate in, but they changed their own regulations, referring to the states. So PrizePicks cannot regulate in them, or cannot participate in them, and they also can't have their peer-to-peer contest either. So why in the world are player props active in these three states if it's free to play? Because maybe they'll eventually become active again, maybe they'll be an operational sports book, and they want to make sure they have as much user base as possible, and those three states are extremely popular for the sports betting industry. Now this, a lot more simpler of a map. This is the DraftKings Sportsbook's operational states. If it's lime green, you can play DraftKings player props on your DraftKings Sportsbook app. If it's not lime green, you can't. Now, we're going to go into some more detailed regulation stuff. Just because it's a lime green state does not mean you get to play every single type of player prop. This list right here, these are states that have legalized sports betting, but you cannot bet on player props of collegiate athletes. So all of these states, you can bet on anything you want to bet on as long as it's not player props for collegiate athletes. And to go into even more detail, this list of states right here do have legalized betting. You can bet on collegiate player props as long as the players aren't from the state you're betting in. As convoluted as that is, here's an example. So we all know Rutgers University well, there's a lot of, actually, let's use UConn as an example. First one here, Connecticut. So UConn, if you are in the state of Connecticut and you want to bet on UConn basketball player props, this player is going to get over under 15 points. You can't do that if you're in UConn. If you're in New Jersey and you want to bet on the UConn player, you can. You just can't bet on home team players. Now, you're probably asking yourself, why is this a thing? Why can't we bet on college player props? And there's a lot of reasons the sportsbooks mention why you can and you can't. And believe it or not, one of the reasons that they mention is because they don't want their 18 and 19-year-old athletes to get death threat DMs on Instagram because they only scored 20 points instead of 21. As silly as that sounds, that is an actual fact, because there's so many keyboard warriors that think it's hilarious to DM a professional athlete or collegiate athlete saying, oh, I hate you, I wish that your whole family dies because you didn't do what I wanted to do in my player prop. And they screenshot that DM and they post it on social media, and everybody goes, ah, you're so funny. because of all of that chaos that has existed in the space over the last 5 or so years, some states can't have college player props. So if that is you or your friends, make sure you pat them on the back for ruining the industry. Moving on. All right. So here are types of player props. There's a lot of different types. These are kind of the 3 basic ones. The standard player props are what you're more commonly familiar with: over, under, receiving yards, over, under, shots on goal, things of that. Right here we have exotic. These things have a greater payout because they're harder to hit. So in standard, going back to the best receiver in football history, Tyreek Hill, let's say you are betting a standard player prop would be him to score a touchdown in the game. That's all you're betting on. He's going to get at least 1 touchdown in the game. That's considered standard. If you're betting on him to get the first touchdown in the game, that is an exotic player prop because it's more specific, very specific actually for him to do. So the very specific player prop bets like that are considered exotic. And then last year, fantasy, kind of self-explanatory. Prop apps like Price Picks, Underdog, and even some sports books now have the ability to go over under a fantasy score. LeBron James 30 points, for example. Now I stress very strongly, just because you and your friends have been playing ESPN fantasy football leagues for decades does not mean that you know the fantasy score for every single other platform. Before you do over under fantasy score for any player, make sure you check the scoring formula, the scoring format for the site. They're always different. Some sites can award 4 points for a passing touchdown, some sites will do 6. Some sites have point PPR, some sites have none. Make sure you pay attention to that before you bet on fantasy score. Now let's go over some best practices when it comes to researching and figuring out what you want to do when it comes to player props. Here's 3 things here. So the first 2, the importance of statistical analysis and trends and utilizing historical performance and data. Those are 2 things we're going to go into more detail on a little bit later on when we actually pull up PlayerProps.AI and look at it and see how it works. So for now, we're just going to focus on line shopping. If you were here for the Betting 101 that just happened a few minutes ago, or an hour ago roughly, they kind of covered this a little bit, but I'll go into more detail. It is extremely important that you are line shopping every single bet you are doing. Let's say you have only one sportsbook account on one sportsbook. This is your favorite sportsbook. This is where all your bets go. This is where all your money is. You only have one. That's the only thing you care about. And for whatever reason, you have the brand loyalty for who knows what. You're doing your research, and your research says that Tua is going to go over his projected passing yards. So your preferred sportsbook has him at 285.5 passing yards. Now, that's your preferred book. You're not looking at anything else, so what are you going to do? You're going to go over 285.5. However, more than likely you're in a state that has multiple sportsbook accounts, if it has at least one. This other, less popular book has Tua at 282.5. So your favorite one, 285.5. This other one you don't pay attention to, don't have an account on, 282.5. The game plays out. Tua finishes with either exactly 283, 284, or 285 passing yards. You lose your bet on your preferred sportsbook, but you win all 3 of those options on the other one. If you have been betting on one book for a year, 2 years now across all different sports, it will blow your mind to look at the historical lines from all the other options that were available to you at that time to see how many more bets you would have won if you had line shopped every single time. And as mentioned on the previous panel, there are a lot of tools that kind of do that for you, so you don't have to look at every single different app to figure out who's got the best line. Now on PlayerProps.AI, that feature's coming out a little bit, about less than 2 months from now, and it'll have all of the lines from all of the players, only from the books that are available to you in the state you're currently in. So it's not going to just show you 10 books, and 5's not even in your state, because then that's just pointless. When I put this together, I asked my community of over 160,000 members, I said, out of everything that you have learned since you have joined PlayerProps.ai, since you have joined this community, since you have downloaded this app, out of everything you've learned, what do you think is the number one thing that you wish you learned earlier? By a staggering amount, a vast majority of my community all said the same thing. We wish we would have learned about your bankroll management strategy earlier. That is the number one thing that has changed the lives of the people in the community. As you see here by the subtext line, I truly believe it is the only way to win. If you are not practicing even a different type of bankroll management or any bankroll management in general, you will not be a profitable bettor long term. It is literally impossible. This is the rule that I preach in every single YouTube video I do, in my Discord, everywhere. I preach my 20-80-20 rule. If you implement this if you seem like you're losing a lot of your bets, you want to have it for kind of strategy, I can guarantee you implement the 20-80-20, you will curb your losses. You will not lose 0 of your bets, but you will curb your losses if you start implementing this bankroll matrix strategy. So we're going to go through an example here. 20-80-20, all those numbers are percentages. Number 1 says never risk more than 20% of your bankroll at any given time. For the sake of this panel, if you want to call it that, let's do a quick example here. Let's say we have a $100 bankroll. Okay, we have $100 in our bankroll. First rule says never risk more than 20% at a given time. So 20% of $100, 20 bucks. So here's $100 bucks. $20 what we can risk. $80 is what's left over we're not going to touch. Second part of the rule. Of the $20, that 20% that we can risk at any given time, 80% of that amount, that's for the safer plays, the 1 picks, the 2 picks. Or if you're in a prop-only state like Georgia for prize picks, 2 picks or 3 picks because you can't do 1 picks. Safer plays, 80% of that. What's 80% of 20 bucks? $16. So we still have $80 over here we're not touching. We have 20 bucks over here. 16 of that's for the safe stuff, which what leaves left? The last 20%. That's $4. That's what you can spend on the parlays. The 3, 4, 5, 6 pick parlays. Now, keep in mind, I didn't say 10 picks, didn't say 15 picks, and didn't say 20 picks. Stop doing those. Don't do it. It's not going to help you long term. Now, this is the 20-20 rule that I keep preaching, and before we continue, I want to kind of go into bankroll a little bit more. You might think that bankroll is how much money is in your sportsbook account, and I strongly disagree. That is not how I view your bankroll. If you're someone who just puts $20 of your paycheck, $50 of your weekly paycheck into FanDuel Sportsbook, and you think $50 for that day is your bankroll, that is not how you should be looking at it, and that's actually a very bad habit when it comes to long-term success in sports betting. This is what your bankroll should be. Stop betting completely. Look at your financial situation. If you have responsibilities that you share with a spouse, significant other, a roommate, look at all the income, look at all the outcome. Figure out what is the ultimate amount of money that you have to your name that you can lose without it affecting your mental health, without it affecting your ability to pay your bills. That number, maybe it's $1,000 for some people, $10,000 for other people, maybe it's $10 for you. That number is your bankroll. Do not keep doing a little bit here every week, a little bit here from your paychecks. That is not a healthy habit, and you more likely than not aren't going to be catching up and paying attention to how much long term you're going to be doing if you do that, and it will catch up to you, and it's harder to grow a bankroll with just that little amount. So make sure that you look at your whole financial situation. I've had people do that practice, and they came up to me and said, Trevis, I did that, and I actually won't be able to pay my bills if I lose any money. Or I have depression situations, and I feel if I lose $10, I'm going to go back in and have, crazy thoughts or whatever it may be. I shouldn't sports bet. And that's actually a sign of strength. A lot of people think it's a weakness to step away from something. If you actually look at your finances and you can't lose a single penny without going into a state of depression, this is not for you. Sports betting is a hobby for people with expendable, disposable income. If you don't have that, you should not be sports betting at this given time. Here's some other strategies for success. 1, understanding player matchups. Now, if you've ever played fantasy football before, chances are you already kind of know how this works. If I'm targeting a receiver player prop, and maybe it's receptions, maybe it's some receiving yards, well, we need to know what defense he's versing, what player is going to be covering him on that defense. Next one is impact of injuries. Some people out there might think that impact of injuries only means that if a defender, let's say a star cornerback is hurt, that only enhances the opportunity for that receiver he's supposed to cover. No, a single injury can affect the entire game. Because if now the second best defender is covering the star receiver, well, the second best receiver now has the third best defender, so now things are opened up for him. So there's always needing to pay attention to all things on the field, just if one single person is hurt. Number 3, key metrics to consider. If you are targeting passing yards, it's pretty important to know if the guy's going to be having a lot of passing attempts or passing completions. I'm not going to be paying attention to people like Tim Tebow who are throwing 8 passes a game for passing yards. I want to have the people have a lot of high volume. If you're looking for receiving yards or receptions, what's an important key metric to pay attention to? Targets. Is he even getting thrown the ball? Drops. When he gets thrown the ball, is he even actually catching them? Next one up here, we have betting against public opinion, and I am very, very, very strongly against it. If you've ever opened up FanDuel Sportsbook or DraftKings Sportsbook, chances are you've seen those pre-made parlays that are right there at the top staring you down. And more often than not, it'll have a number on the bottom saying, 2,800 people have already plugged this in. You should plug this in too. Guys, there's a reason these are $10 billion billion plus dollar companies because you play those because they show them to you. There's no reason to be playing pre-made parlays. Now, do they have a chance of hitting? Yes, because if they promoted them and they didn't, they're technically illegal. If you see a number that says 2,800 people have also plugged this in, how do you know that those 2,800 people have done an ounce of research to come to that conclusion, and they're not just lazy people who don't want to do research on their own and they'll just plug what FanDuel tells them to plug in? Do not tell anybody unless you know that they have done their due diligence on the research to come to their conclusion. I believe PrizePicks still has it where they have like a fire icon or a fire emoji on a player prop. So just going back to like Tyreek Hill receiving yards, they don't necessarily say that a lot of people are betting the over-under. It'll just say a lot of people adding his receiving line into their slip. But again, how do you know that anybody that is locking him in has done any due diligence or any research at all? When I have a show that I do for my entire community and for everybody in the world, because YouTube's global, but it's a Monday through Friday show where I don't do any research whatsoever before hitting record. I hit the record button, I pull up my desktop version of my site, and then I go through everything that I'm seeing and spitting out all the words going through my head into the microphone so you know exactly how my thought process goes on how to utilizing the data and the AI projections that my stuff is showing. So by the time you get to the end of the video, when I say this is what I'm locking in, you have about 15 to 20 minutes of me explaining exactly how I got to that point. Now, there's a lot of people out there that are charging for picks, charging for plays, and that's not something if more power to you. That's not an industry I put any shame on, but if I'm paying someone for picks, I want to know that they're doing their due diligence to come to their conclusions, and they're not just stealing their picks from somebody else on Twitter and charging you for it. So make sure if you're following someone or you're telling somebody, you know, kind of have a gist of what they're doing. Next one up here is knowing when to hedge. If you're not familiar with the term hedge, hedge is you simply betting against yourself to guarantee profit. Now, there might be a lot of people that disagree with this strategy, but I always urge my community to hedge at every opportunity possible when it comes to the longer parlays. And I have an example here I'm going to pull up. We're going to go through exactly how hedging works and what it means. So, in this example, I have placed $10 on a 10-pick parlay, where if all 10 picks win, I get $1,000. So that's this example: $10, 10 picks, $1,000 if they all win. For argument's sake, let's say this is on NFL Sunday. We did the 1 p.m. games, the 4 p.m. games. We get 9 out of 9, and there's one game left in our 10-pick parlay. It's Sunday Night Football. The Dolphins are versus the Patriots. The Dolphins, as you see in the bottom left of the screen, the Dolphins are minus 150 moneyline favorites. The Patriots are plus 200. So what do you do here? You have one pick left to win $1,000. Do you let it ride? Do you hedge bet, which essentially you're betting on the opposite of the final leg, or do you cash out? Sometimes in the situation, the sportsbooks will offer you a cash out option. In my experience, I would say more than 90% of the time, the cash out amount that they offer you is less than you can make if you hedge the bet. So it's something you need to just calculate on your own. If I hedge it, can I make more, or is this cash out number they're giving me actually a fair amount? Chances are it's not, because again, that's how the sportsbooks are billion-dollar companies. Something that I see a lot of people online thinking or saying when it comes to this scenario that I strongly disagree with as well, is if you have a $10 10-pick parlay and you have one left, they go, oh, I'll just let it ride. It's $10. It is not $10. You have over $500 in equity of that 10-pick parlay that if you just let it ride, you're letting $500 plus ride, not $10. So don't look at it as what you initially started with. Think about it as how much equity you have in that parlay slip. So let's go through the rest of this example here. $10, 10 picks, winning $1,000 if they all hit. One leg left, Miami minus 150 money line. Last leg, opposite of the final leg, so them New England to upset, plus 200. So how do we hedge? We bet $336 on New England money line at plus 200 to win $1,008. So we're all in now, $336 plus 10, $346 total. If the Dolphins do win, we have a net profit. So after all is said and done, we profit $654. But if New England upsets Miami, we still profit $662. So no matter what happens in the last game, you have made yourself at least $654 in profit. So that is why I always stress urging, because any given Sunday, anything can happen in any given sport. Now, we can add a little bit on to that. Let's say that your research for Miami, you feel like there's like a 90% chance this team's going to win. Maybe you don't want to create a 50-50 payout scenario like I just made here. That's fine. You don't have to bet $336 on the opposite leg. You can do 200 bucks, 100 bucks. Just make sure you're putting some money, so when the Patriots do upset the Dolphins, then you haven't lost everything that all of your bet equity. You haven't lost your $500 or $650 in parlay equity, and definitely not your original $10 you put in there. It's a lot of math, but there's more things I'm going to go in a second here that makes that stuff super, super simple for you. Let me go back to the list here. So, okay, knowing when to hedge. 6, understanding implied chance. I think they touched on it a little bit in the last panel, but what I see in my community, so if you were to rank someone's betting intelligence or betting skill set on a scale of 1 to 10, my community is generally a lot of 0, 1s, and 2s. So I have a lot of people who are just getting into it for the first time. So I've found ways to break it down to make it as easy as possible to digest. So, and every time you see odds, anywhere in any sports book, that is just an implied chance, just shown in a different number format. So going back to the Miami money line that was minus 150 earlier, that simply means Miami has a 60% implied chance to win the game. Which leads me to my final thing here, number 7, Discord bots. Math isn't for everybody. I was great at math growing up, but I hated doing it. So, and you may not even be good at math, and you still hate doing it. Some people may love it. It doesn't matter. Math isn't for everybody, so I try to simplify things as much as possible. In my community Discord, there are 3 bots that I have built for my community that kind of go over some of the stuff that I just mentioned. For the bankroll, for example, some might think that calculating 20% and 80% and 20% is simple math. Some may be completely confused by it. So I created a bankroll management bot where all you do is you go into that channel and you type in what your bankroll is, and it'll spit out those results for you. You type in 100 bucks, it'll say you can risk $20 today to any one given time, 16 of that on the safe 1 to 2 picks, $4 on the 3 to 6 picks. You type in any number and it gives you the math for that. Another Discord bot I've created is the implied chance bot. Now, you'll come to learn that, every time I see 150, minus 150, okay, I know Trevis said that's 60% implied chance. When you start getting the parlays, start getting those bigger numbers like plus 22,000 or whatever it may be, it gets a little bit harder to calculate that or to remember what those implied chance odds mean. So in that Discord bot, you type in whatever your bet slip is, whether it's 1 bet or whether it's a 10-pick parlay, like I said, like a plus 22,000. You type it in there, it'll automatically spit out what the implied chance is. And this is a very important tool that I like for my day 1 people that are joining my community for the first time, because we all know that people, more often than not, are parlay-only players. They're always shooting for the moon. They're always playing those lotto picks. When they come into my community for the first time, they'll drop a 15-pick parlay, and they'll say, "Hey, Trevis, what do you think about this? What do you think about these picks here?" And all I do below that is I pull up the Discord bot, I type in the number, which let's just say again it's plus 22,000, implied chance 0.1%. And I say, this is what I think about your parlay. I think it has a 0.1% chance to win. Why are you putting money on something that has a 0.1% chance to win? Try to do things that have a higher implied chance to increase your winning and curb your losing. So that's the gist of the best practices. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually pull up some screenshots from PlayerProps.AI and explain what the data is, how to use it, and how to use that to curb your losses and increase your winning when it comes to betting on player props. So what is PlayerProps.AI? PlayerProps.AI is the first research tool that is geared for people of every skill level. Sure, there's other tools available out there right now, but they go only for the intermediate to the advanced. They don't want to do any education, they don't want to do hand-holding, and because, like I said, the vast majority of my community are the 0, 1s, and 2s, I decided to create an app specifically for everyone. It has AI-powered player prop projections, it has historical player performance data, robust sports betting education that far encompasses way more than this simple panel is doing right now, and then a massive community of bettors. My favorite thing about my community is not how big it is. It's the fact that over the last 3 years, I have made sure that there are no trolls of any kind in the community, because the problem in the industry, no matter what Discord you join or Facebook group or whatever it is, I guarantee you, if they have at least 100,000 people in there, there's at least 5 people who are going to laugh at you if you ask a question of the simplest thing of, what's a money line, or what do odds mean? Somebody's going to leave a laughing face emoji, somebody's going to mock you, and the favorite part for me, for my community, is I can guarantee you that will never happen no matter how beginning, no matter how square one you think your question is. So again, it's not how great or how big my community is. My favorite part is how great my community is, because even if I'm not available, majority of the people in there will answer the question for you. even if they're just other community members. So here's the desktop version of PlayerProps.AI. All this information is the same on the mobile app as well. That you see the flyers hanging around. You just scan the QR code on that to download the app. The predictor is our flagship tool. This is what we started out with. So I don't know if this, can't really see the laser pointer here, but so right here, these are the filters that you're going to be choosing. So in this example, we chose MLB. We chose FanDuel as the source. And why the source is important? Because the line and the odds are directly pulled from whatever source you choose. So if you are looking at FanDuel, if that's your preferred book, well, I'm going to choose FanDuel. Okay, so Zach on FanDuel at this given second has a 3.5 strikeout line with a -164 payout. And I mentioned before, math isn't for everybody. Implied chance is what odds are. So every time you see odds on our app, you also see what the implied chance is. We do the math for you. So, okay, odds -164, which means he has a 62.12% implied chance of going over. Right here, well, finishing this up here at top. So we've chosen pitching strikeouts. We've chosen to sort the players by diff, short for difference. And what the difference is, which is this value here in the last white block, is the percentage difference between what the available line is on FanDuel and what our AI projection is giving you right here. So our AI is saying he's going to get 5.15 strikeouts. FanDuel's saying over under 3.5. That's a 47% percentage difference, which is higher than any other player right now on FanDuel with a strikeout line available, which is why Zach is up top. So that's this information right here we've kind of already covered. These last 4 squares here, this is all the past data. If the value in these blocks are over 50%, the color is going to be green, as you see here. If it's under 50%, it'll be red. And if it's exactly 50%, as you see right here, it's going to be gray. So what these tell you is what this player has done at that line in their most recent games. So Zach, last 5 games he started, he has gone over 3.5 strikeouts 60% of his last 5 games. 50% of his last 10 games, 60% of his games over the course of the season, and 100% of his games against the Texas Rangers. So that's all the data you can see in this one row here. If you want to choose players from a specific game, you can tap on these games to just show players from that. Or if you want to choose players specifically, you can just search for their name there to find them. Now, the predictor has more data than just that. So let's say we're interested in a pitcher. For whatever reason, I'll just say Martin Perez. We can tap on his row here, and it's going to show us an individual player page. All of the information we just went over here is still there. All the filters are here as well, but now we have extra data here. So we knew from the previous screen that he hit 60% of his last 5 games, but now we can see what exactly he did in those 5 games, what days those games were, and what teams he versed. We have some extra data right here on the screen as well for you. On this side, this is the last 10 games average. So the numbers here are what this player has done for this stat over his last 10 games. So he's averaged 3.7 strikeouts over the last 10 games. These are projections, just like our AI is saying he's got a 3.5 strikeout projection. You could go up here to the filter and change it to a bunch of different stats, but instead of us having you do that, anything that is projected for this player is shown right here on the screen as well. So you see walks allowed, ERA, hits allowed, strikeouts, and pitching outs. There's colors here as well. If the value of the projection is higher than the value of his last 10-game average, it's going to be green. If it's lower, it's going to be red. And then again, like I said, there's the bar graphs there showing the different data, and this gray line that you see across, that's the current line that you could bet on. So his line is 3.5, and that gray line, if you look all the way to the far left, is right there at 3.5. There's more data on the screen. All you gotta do is scroll down. Underneath this data, you see similar things as we saw above. The default bar graph is the last 10 games. So let's say you only care about the last 5. Well, you tap on last 5, it'll only show you the last 5 bars. You tap on last 20, you'll see 20 games here. You tap on the season, 2024, you'll see everything. If you only want to see the bar graphs against the team he's versing, tap on head-to-head. This is another cool feature I really like down here called our alt line or alt line toggle. Let's say that your sportsbook that you prefer has yet to be integrated with PlayerProps.AI, or you're just looking to play a different line than the standard line. So Martin Perez, as we saw, was a line of 3.5 strikeouts. Let's say that your preferred book has a line of 4.5. Well, 3.5 is different than 4.5, or let's say that you want a better payout on FanDuel, so you're going to do 4.5 strikeouts. Okay, you might be thinking to yourself, let's see what his data looks like if I change the available line. Maybe I'll do over 4.5 and get a better payout on FanDuel. If you do up or down arrows, it'll change the line by 0.5 increments. So of course, if you want to go to 4.5, we have to tap the up arrow twice. Once we do that, line changes to 4.5, and then we see this guy sucks at 4.5. He was really good because he hit a lot of 4s, and his line was 3.5. But at 4.5, I wouldn't touch this guy with a 10-foot pole. All of this data here, the hit rates change. We see it's 0% last 5, 20% last 10, 25% last 20. It's all the data you can get in the player info screen, and we are adding features and data points to this tool every single day. So the first one was our predictor. That was our flagship tool. This one's called an optimizer. This one uses almost the exact same data as the other tool, but it's specifically designed for the prop apps like PrizePicks. PrizePicks doesn't have odds, it just has a line and you choose over or under. So how can we benefit using data to give ourselves an edge with prop apps like that? What we've done here is we've taken the lines available on PrizePicks, which we see because we selected here. So right now, Brian Hoeing on PrizePicks has a line of 2.5 strikeouts. Because they don't have odds, which means they don't have an implied chance, we pull the odds, we pull the implied chance from the sports books to put it right next to it to give you an idea of how much it would cost in terms of how much juice you would have to pay for or how high the implied chance is for that stat. So on PrizePicks, all you see is 2.5. Should I go over or under? But we let you know that, hey, if you do this on FanDuel right now, FanDuel says he's got a 55.56 implied chance. And why is that important? Because FanDuel and all these other sports books, they all have their own AI as well. They spend billions of dollars to make sure they have the best line possible, and they pay you the least amount possible. So why not leverage their AI, which is essentially what this is showing here, when we're selecting things on PrizePicks. Now, if you were to click on the rows, you would see the same player info screen that you saw on Predictor as well with all the sexy bar graph data. Now, our education and our tools don't just stop at the app. We have a robust offering of videos on our YouTube channel. As I mentioned before, I do a show Monday through Friday. I don't do any research beforehand. I don't plan ahead. I just hit record. I pull up the app as you saw on the screen before, and I say, okay, let's see what we can find some today. I call my Monday through Friday show the $100,000 to $100,000 challenge, because what I'm trying to prove to everyone is you can start with a $100 bankroll. You can be very strict with your 20-80-20 bankroll management, and you can only play the few plays that we find during the show's episode, and you can take a $100 bankroll to $100,000. Now you might be asking, Trevis, have you got to $100,000 yet? No. Is it going to take a long time? Definitely yes. It could take a few years, but the point is we can get there, and I can show you that it's possible. But if I can actually get to the point where I get to whatever episode, whatever day it is, and I've shown you from day 1 to day whatever, 6,000, hey, I just held your hand and took you from 100 to 100,000, I instantly become a billion-dollar company. So I'm looking forward to that day. So there's more things than just the Monday through Friday show. I did mention that this is for everybody of all skill levels, so there are people that don't know what a round robin is. There's a video for that. People that don't understand how a teaser bet is or how it works. We have a video for that. And to go a little bit more advanced in the videos, we have more specific things, as you can see right here. Why betting alternate lines isn't always smart. My good friend Anger from Inside Out. What I saw a lot this year in NBA is people would do, let's just say, a 10-pick parlay. They would put NBA player points. For this example, let's just say all of their lines are 20, so over under 20 points. They would alt them, which means changing to an alternate line to 15. Because their thought process is, hey, if the sportsbook has over under 20, these players are probably going to get 15 points. So they alt them all to 15, put them in a 10-pick parlay, and then go, hey, why didn't this hit? There are ways to know when to and to not do that. It's possible to actually give yourself an edge with that concept, and you can actually use PlayerProps.AI to figure out which players work best in that situation. So that video goes over that. This one's self-explanatory, how to get free premium access forever. This one, going back to the $100,000 to $100,000 challenge, I don't explain the full details on every show from Monday through Friday. I just say, hey, watch this video and it'll explain how to track it on your own. Even if we're on day, I don't know where we're at right now, let's say day 40, you can come in at any day and you can start your own day 1, start your own tracking and still follow through. You don't have to play catch up. Just start wherever you come in at. This last one down here, the number one sports betting mistake that is killing you. This one typically goes, I think the majority of it's going over bankroll management, as I explained before, but there's a lot of other key nuggets in there. There's a lot of videos like that on our YouTube as well. So some final takeaways. Do the bare minimum. That's what we call the free stuff. If you actually want to take betting seriously, if you actually want to curb your losses and increase your wins, you got to do the free stuff. That's you proving to yourself that you're going to be taking this seriously. What's the free stuff? You can download the free PlayerProps.AI app. You can subscribe to the free PlayerProps.AI YouTube channel. You can join the free PlayerProps.AI Discord, and then sync your Discord to your PlayerProps.AI account. That's what unlocks all the free channels there for you. The free stuff. This is my branded hashtag. Every single time I say anything in the Discord, anything in the YouTube videos, I always say the same thing. Hashtag apply yourself. There are people out there that will turn on to the YouTube video I put on. They'll fast forward to the end and they'll say, I just want to care about what picks he's playing and lock those in. Those are people that are not going to be successful bettors long term. The point of those shows is not to give you picks. The point of the shows and the point of PlayerProps.AI is to make you better at finding your own picks. So if you don't apply yourself, if you don't take the education, the app that the YouTube videos have, then you're shooting yourself in the foot. The next two kind of go hand in hand. ABL, always be learning, and no question is too dumb. As I mentioned before, PlayerProps.AI is for everybody of any skill set, of any level. You come in and you don't know a single thing about anything betting, this is the community for you. Always ask questions, never be afraid to be increasing your knowledge or even starting your knowledge. Nobody in the PlayerProps.AI community will mock you. And then bankroll management, as I mentioned before, practice the 20-80-20 rule, infuse that into your daily routine. You will curb your losing, and make sure that you do the bankroll thing I said before of determining what is the maximum number that you can lose without it affecting your mental health, your ability to pay your bills. And lastly, take a break. If you're on a losing streak and you're like, man, I need to take a break, take a break. If you're on a winning streak and you're just tired of researching, take a break. The break can be for a week, it can be for a month. You can come back next season. Or, as I've had a lot of people do, come to me saying, hey, all the things you taught me, I looked at everything, sports betting's not for me. I should just step back. Step back. A lot of people think that taking a break is essentially quitting, which is a sign of weakness. It's the exact opposite. If you have the ability to know that something's not going right for you, and you need to step back from sports betting, that is a sign of strength. It means you're smart, and the people who think that but don't take a step back, who don't take a break, those are the ones that have a sign of weakness. So if you need to take a break, take a break. Sports betting is not going anywhere. PlayerProps.AI is not going anywhere. This QR code is the same QR code you saw on the flyers that everybody got in their swag bag. You scan this QR code, you'll download the PlayerProps.AI app on whatever mobile device you have. And if you notice on the flyers that were in your swag bag, there's actually a promo code. Use Expo, E-X-P-O. In the checkout, it'll give you $20 off your first month, but still, as I mentioned before, there's a ton of stuff on the app, on the YouTube video, in the community that's 100% free, because we know that for some people, it will take a little bit of time to get to a point where they're comfortable signing up for a premium subscription. That Expo promo code that gets you $20 off your first month goes from now all the way through the end of August, so it expires September 1st. So make sure if you want to be the ones who just play around with the free stuff, get a good feeling for it, and then upgrade, make sure you do it before September 1st. If you want to contact me, I have an email here, support@playerprops.ai, or join the free Discord, shoot me a DM there. Hit me up on Twitter. I mean, I'm on literally every social media platform that's ever existed, except for MySpace. I'm not on there anymore. I apologize for my movements back there. But yeah, that is it. That is PlayerProps 101. Are there any questions whatsoever that anyone has before we wrap this up? Going once, going twice. Sold. Thank you, everyone. Oh, you got a question? Yeah. You got a microphone here for you real quick. Yes, sir.
I was all the way in the back and I couldn't quite see the screen. The 20-80-20, what was the third money for?
Yeah, let me go back to that real quick here for you. There we go. So yeah, so going over this one more time, these are all percentages. So in the example we did, we said $100 bankroll. So the first number 20% of $100 is $20. So if you have only $100 in your bankroll, you should not be risking more than $20 at one given time. Of that $20, or the 20%, 80% is on the safe stuff, the 1 to 2 picks. And then the last one was whatever's left over from that the original 20%. So 80% is on the safe stuff, 20% is on the more riskier 3 to 6 pick parlays. Did I answer the question for you? Yeah. Anything else? Nope. All right. Enjoy the rest of your time here at the Fantasy Football Expo. Thanks for coming out, everybody. Have a good day.